Welcome to Newport Interactive Marketers' inaugural podcast here at the Newport Art Museum in Newport, Rhode Island. I'm here with Priscilla Pylon, one of our Newport Interactive Marketers members. I'm one of the founders of Newport Interactive Marketers, which is a relatively new group. We gather together monthly to talk about new media, social media. We have designers, developers, bloggers,
tweeters.
Yes, and we try to get together and share as much information as we can. Today, we are launching our podcast YouTube series, and we are going to be talking about
Social Networking for Business. It's a book written by Ron Shaw, and it's about choosing the right tools and resources to fit your needs.
The book came out in 2010. It's Wharton School Publishing, and we're going to just talk about why we were interested in the book, who the book is for, what you can expect, why you should read it, or maybe why you shouldn't. A little bit of background about our interest in the book, having launched Newport Interactive Marketers, which generally meets in person with networking. We also launched a website that's in a wiki platform, and we're trying to build the interaction both online and offline, and how can those two come together.
It's really about sort of gathering the community together and taking advantage of all the social networking resources and working together.
Yeah, in essence, there's a great creative community here in Newport and very entrepreneurial, and I'd like to see everybody do well and share as much information as we can.
Okay.
So what did you think of the book?
I thought it was very academic. I think you did as well. We
Yep.
sort of talked about that. It was definitely written in the voice of an academic who, yes, wanted to tell us how much he knew, but also had some helpful information about how to think about starting your whole community and what resources you're going to devote to social networking and social media.
Right. One of the things that he does well is outlining sort of the structure of social networking. But you noted an important distinction, which sort of escaped me, that social networking is not the same thing as social media in this book.
Exactly. Most people, when they're talking about when they're launching their businesses or trying to grow them, and or launching a brand, let's say, they'll say, we need to get into social networking. That's not really what they mean. And in this book, he did a good job actually of discriminating between the two. There's social networking and there's social media. And that's all about what online content you want, how to create it, what to put out there, and what forms to put it out in.
But definitely more in a community basis and a community platform. And in fact, he offers a series of models. There's a great chart. There are some really wonderful charts throughout the book. But you know, if you just need a quick browse, I would say if you're a community manager that you need a little more information, or if you're a brand manager and you're thinking about launching a community, such as one of the examples is Fisketeers, which is all about crafting and supplies. It's all about scissors, really. But you know, how can you build a community to sell more scissors? And this book really outlines some key tactics for that.
It was actually a really clever example, because everyone uses scissors, everyone has scissors. Why would you want more scissors? So I thought that was a really good context to talk about how to get a community going and how to broaden the horizons through social networking and social media.
Right. So we're going to talk about what readers can expect, and we mentioned the social media models. One thing that I was a little disappointed with was there's no strong recommendation about which model might make sense for what type of group. Again, for Newport Interactive Marketers, we really wanted information. How can we grow our group and how can we make it successful? And there were no clear recommendations for what might fit our organization.
You talk about the different strategies about groups and whether you take a spider approach and, you know, or a more controlled group. Who's going to control the group in the community? Who's going to be the leader of the group in the community? He doesn't actually address how you go about picking which model is the best for your community. So I thought it was very vague.
Right.
Most of what he was talking about was really difficult to apply to New England interactive marketers and pick what should we do?
Right.
What should be the best model?
Right. But one thing that he does do really well is defining goals and tactics to help you get your community off the ground, understanding motivators, things like badges, which there are other communities that I'm a part of, but I never really thought, oh, that's kind of goofy. But, you know, I thought, all right, well, if this is what keeps people contributing and motivated, then maybe we should consider things like badges. And then also interpreting people's style of contributions, and also identifying who are the leaders of the community, who are the community managers, what makes for a good community manager. I thought that information was really helpful.
Very helpful. And getting back to when you were talking about the badges, it talks about a reward system. And how do you reward people in the community for good behavior, so to speak, being an active participant in the community? And how do you encourage that further? So, you know, the award system is great, but I felt he didn't go deep enough into offering suggestions for what those should be.
Right. Again, very academic, lacking in the creative space. But, you know, if you're a creative person, and a lot of us are, kind of take these fundamentals and then build on it.
Exactly.
So what did you find most enlightening to the book?
Well, probably the fact that there's a series of questions at the end. And I think it's 7 or 8 questions in the last section of the book. And what I found is I don't know what I don't know.
Right.
So he has a series of questions where you go through, and I never thought that picking the right person, trying to figure out who that right person is to lead the community, and are we going to do it by default? Is that leader just going to emerge? Or are we going to create that leader, or are we going to assign that leader? Right. So I thought that was very enlightening.
And I also think it's very encouraging to see a professional say, hey, this is going to take a huge time commitment. I think a lot of brands think they're just going to launch something and, oh, you know, the people will come if you build it. And it's like, no, there are definite tactics and techniques that are required, and time commitment of your community manager, and certain skills to identify in your community manager. Whether it's somebody who's on staff or volunteer, you need those key components, because otherwise it really loses its nurturing.
Absolutely. And I, of course, am thinking Suzanne obviously has become our natural emerging leader in all of this. Does she want to be? Are other people willing to step up there? Are we going to have a whole line of people helping push us forward? I don't know. And I think the book helps us to ask those questions.
Right. Yeah, for me, having started the group just on a lark, you know, with a couple other people who are in Newport, you know, it came down to, it's fun, I really enjoy it, but now that it's growing and we're doing new initiatives, I definitely need other people to kind of help out and take on certain roles. And, you know, if you ask, people are willing to do it, which is great. You know, for example, just doing this podcast is all volunteer organization, everything runs for free, and all the programming is all on volunteer basis. So if you get the right people, yeah, everybody's willing to play a part, and it's a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, so...
well, that's how she got me to do this. So she asked and I said yes.
I know.
So that's part of the whole community. Everyone has to say yes. So.
Well, I don't have to, but it helps. It helps the community, and it helps yourself, hopefully. So how do you think other people can benefit from the book?
I think for sure, if they're looking to launch their own brand, and I think if they don't know what size community they want and how much participation they want from it, it helps them define where they're going. It may not help them figure out which direction to take, but it helps them figure out maybe which directions not to take. So it more was useful as a limiter, or eliminating, I should say, what directions they don't want to go in.
Right. I also thought that it's important, if you're thinking about launching a community, that you really think hard about what process and procedures and how much time you're willing to invest. And I would say, if you're not willing to go through this book, which is a little bit of a challenge to read, then maybe you should reconsider the launching of a community. read the book, decide, and fail fast is always a good recommendation.
Definitely. Fail fast. So you have time to regroup and try a different tactic.
So we just wanted to feature a book by Colleen Jones, Clout, that we're going to be doing a future podcast on. Just came in the mail, so we're looking forward to digging into it. And actually another Newport Interactive Marketer member is going to read it with me. And we hope to get that up in the future. Meanwhile, you can find us on NewportInteractiveMarketers.com, and we meet monthly here in Newport generally, and we're going to do our podcast hopefully monthly, and
Twitter #NIM.
Right, yeah, and we like to call ourselves NIM or Nimmers, and it's a great time. So we hope that you'll be able to come visit us in Newport and join.